second insurance WebEx webinar. This one, how to implement the 4 core competencies of top advisors, what I call the art and science of being an icon. And so today, I want to give you in the next 45 minutes or so, enough information that I think could help you use whatever programs you're currently using, whatever coaching you're involved with currently. I think these 4 core competencies are things that you can take and kind of apply to your day-to-day work and become more successful because of it. I've been in this business for 40 years now. And I got to tell you that I've learned these lessons from working with many, many of the top people in the world. I was fortunate enough a number of years ago to be the regional executive manager of a very large organization in Toronto, Canada. Here we had some 250 advisors working with us, 50 managers and 50 staff. And we were doing millions of dollars of first-year commission. And it was from working with those folks and working with people like Van Miller and others throughout the United States and in Europe and in Southeast Asia. I've been able to sort of cobble together these ideas about the 4 core competencies. I think and I believe that every single one of your problems is a function of one of these competencies, which is a good thing because that means that every single problem you have can be solved by going deep into one of those particular areas. And that's what I hope to do for you today, at least give you a look at that. Now, I call this the art and science of being an icon. And I love that word because it works very well here in this case. Well, let me tell you about that. See, the first question, or the first point is this, that all top advisors are icons, all of them. Now, what is an icon? An icon is a person regarded as a representative symbol of what it means to be the best in the business. Icons are those people we look up to. Back in the day when I first started, it was like the Ben Feldmans and the Ben Silvers of the world. Today, they're Mark Silvermans and they're Van Millers and they're Guy Bakers and they're people like that. These are the icons, representative symbol of Bruce Etherington, representative symbols of what it means to be the best in the business. And to me, that's where you want to aim your business. I've seen many people for many years at this, and I can tell you, if you aim for the top, you've got a good shot at being your very best. Now, what are icons in this sense? Well, icons are persistent. You'll know that they're all people that persist in the face of difficulty and they get the job done. They are always making calls. They are always seeing people. They are always doing the job. They're also particularly attractive, and I don't mean from a physical standpoint, but I do mean from a communication standpoint. They attract business. What they say, how they say it, when they say it, all of these things are particularly special for them. They're also consistent. These are people that can get things done all the time. I've mentioned my pal and a former client of mine, Van Miller. Van's a guy who, I think it was last year or two, or maybe the year before, I think, he called me about January 7th to tell me he'd already qualified for the $1 Million Roundtable. By April 30th of that year, he had already qualified for top of the table. That takes a certain level of consistency. And what's interesting, too, is that these people are always improving. They're persistent, they're attractive, they're consistent, and they're always improving. They're always getting better. The only way to coast is downhill. And that's the truth of it. We know that. So you've got to keep trying to get better in some way or another. Maybe not always getting more business, but maybe spending less time at it, getting better in that fashion. Certainly a guy like Van is a guy he spends about 6 months of the year at this now, and he's into that 1,000 cases range anyway. That's a special person. That really is an icon. Now, to me, the 4 core competencies are what I call icon protocol. Icon protocol, and that's what I want to show you here today. I want to explain to you what it is, the protocols that icons follow, that you can follow if you want to be your very best. So icon protocol then is kind of, if you look at this screen and you'll see this, it shows this is like a target, and the center of that is icon. And I always say aim for icon. If you aim for icon, even if you miss, you'll always be your very best. So that's what we're after. And so you'll look at this, and we'll go into this more deeply, but just as an example for right now, you see that it starts at the top left-hand corner quadrant of that target under inspiration. And that the inspiration, the inspiring sales story that you have is what makes you persistent, what makes you want to do this business. And that comes from having that story. Your communication creates your attractiveness. And that comes from the scripts that you have. And you know this from working with top advisors. When you see them at a meeting anywhere, man, we're always jotting down, what did they say exactly? Because that matters. Organization, of course, is what creates that consistency. And that, of course, comes from having a business model that works for you in your way, in your market, with the products and services that you have to offer. And finally, numeration. Counting, really, is what that is. It's counting. It's what creates improvement. If you can count it, you can control it. That's a big part of that. And that comes, of course, from having the targets you have to have. So let's get into it then. Here's the bottom line. If you want to produce what icons produce, you have to do what icons do. And there's just no escaping that sort of thing. I get lots of people sometimes when I'm coaching say, well, I don't really want to do anything different, Jim, but I want to double my results. And I don't think that dog hunts. I don't think that actually works. In fact, quite sure it doesn't. So that's what we want to do. But on the other hand, if average is acceptable to you, if just getting by is okay, well, you don't need any help because you can just keep on doing what you're doing. I've never liked the word average because someone told me years ago that the average was the best of the worst and the worst of the best. Never liked that approach at all. So it always struck me as something that's important to avoid because I didn't like the idea of average. Funny, I have a 16-year-old daughter. She can't stand average either. She can't stand being at the average. For her, she has to keep going up. Don't know where she gets that. But anyway, I like to say this. My buddy Tony Gordon in Bristol, England, says the same thing. And I think he's exactly right. It's always simple, but not easy to do. And you know this about business. If you've been around any length of time at all, it's a lot of times it's the simplest ideas that are the most effective. But they're not always easy to implement. I often, and I did this when I was on the main platform, the $1 Million Roundtable. I don't know what you could see of this. I'll try to do this just quickly. But it's kind of like sometimes trying to get this brass ring off this little gizmo here. If you don't know what you're doing, getting this off looks impossible. Sometimes success in this business is just like this. You can't get there from here. And by the way, if you don't know how to get this ring off of this little gizmo, trying harder won't help you. And you know that too. Sometimes you can dig in, but if you're off track, it's like you're digging a tunnel and there's no end to it. There's no end. But when you know what you're doing and you know how to do it, it turns out that that brass ring can come off as simple as that. It's simple, but not always easy to do. And that's hopefully what we can show you a little bit more of today. So simple, but not easy. Like I said, aim for icon, and even if you miss, you'll still be the very best you can be. And before I get to icon strategies, I want to talk to you about the icon attitude, because I think this is key. Look, I said this years ago, that you're, in fact, I said it because I read it years ago, but it was in the 1960 Harvard Business Review. Your attitude, not your aptitude, determines your altitude. In my office years ago, back in the day when I had that large office in the Canada's financial district, in my office, inside the door, there was a sign that said attitude code in effect. Attitude is so key to what you do. What you say to yourself, and do you listen, and how do you take yourself in this business? That makes a huge difference in how you operate. So first of all, the icon attitude. Now here in this picture is a picture of my pal, U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6 leader, Rob O'Neill. And Rob and I met a number of years ago in, I think, Omaha, Nebraska, as I recall. And it's funny, it sort of looked like we could be brothers, except I just couldn't even carry his bags, to be honest. There's a man with extraordinary accomplishment as a U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6 leader. And his point was about this attitude, and I think it's so crucial to everything we do in this business, is this. If you want to excel, he said, you can never dwell on your fear. You can never dwell on your failures. You can never dwell even on your successes. You can't indulge your emotions when it comes to those things that scare us or even excite us in business. Those emotions, we cannot indulge them. We cannot do that. We cannot dwell on them. And that, when I heard him say those words, it changed everything for me. You can't dwell on it. Is it scary making phone calls to people who you don't know? Yes, it is. Is it scary a door pulling in businesses where you know nobody? Yes, it is. Is it scary asking for a close? Yes, it is. Is it scary getting somebody or asking somebody for an appointment? Yes, it is. But if you dwell on that, it gets worse, and it can be paralytic. It can paralyze you completely. And I love this. And of course, those of you who have been in the military, and thank you for your service, you know that's just mission focus. And that's what business needs. It applies not only in the financial services business, but it works in other businesses that we work with in the Covenant Group, lawyers and accountants, in practice, small business owners. I've worked with tax preparers over the years. It's the same set of rules because entrepreneurialism is the same. So let's talk about this ICON protocol. And the first thing is to be inspired, the inspiration it takes to be a successful business owner. Now, inspiration is always about, it comes from your heart and goes to your prospect's heart. It's a heart-to-heart thing. It absolutely is not a head-to-head thing. This is not about facts. This is about stories. This is about the emotions you can get into people. And that's the same if you're selling cars, selling houses, if you're selling operations to people who are sick. It doesn't really matter what your quote-unquote business might be. It's all about that inspiration. It's what allows you to put up with no. You see, this goes back to something Simon Sinek would say, you have to know your why. And to me, your why is your inspiration. Why do you do this? For me, my why in this business, helping you today, is because I got involved in the life insurance industry in 1977 as a 21-year-old. That's when I got started. And to this very day, I am a great supporter and apologist for this business because I know of the great value that you provide. Some of that I know from personal experience. But inspiration requires a specific service and a benefit focus, a specific service and benefit focus. And here's what I mean by that. It was Confucius who said many years ago, although likely not in English, he said, when you find something you love to do and at which you excel and for which you are well paid, you never have to work a day in your life. That's the kind of inspiration I'm talking about. Whether it was the first time I ever saw Ben Feldman speak many, many, many years ago, probably in the early 80s in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, or whether it's talking to today's icons, even a Tom Hegna, for instance. Those folks, you feel they would do this, they love to do this, they would do it for nothing, but they don't have to. Confucius said, again, something you love to do, at which you excel, for which you're well paid. Now, that's the inspiration I'm talking about, and that's what you need, a service and a benefit that you can provide directly for people. And that's a key part of this. So what's your inspiring sales story? What do you say when people ask you why you do this, how you do this? There's a great line that I picked up from my partner, Norm Trainer, recently. He talked about this great opportunity, this great line. I think we'll talk about it later on here in this slide, but in these slides, but I want to give it to you today, or give it to you right now. He said, he talked to one of his clients, says, I love helping people move from the majority to the minority. From the majority to the minority. I love how people move from the majority of people who don't have their financial security plan in place and don't really know what's going on and don't sleep at night because of it, to the minority who have a snappy plan in place and they know exactly what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And they rest assured knowing that they are taken care of and they've done what it takes. I love moving people from the majority to the minority. And for a fact that there are many, many circumstances when that particular idea can be used in any business at all. From selling cars to selling houses, you can use that structure, that template, almost anywhere. So you need inspiring sales story too. And inspiration is catchy. When you got it, people want it. They want that stuff. They catch your inspiration. They catch that passion, and it creates your intention. They know why you're there. They know what you have in mind and what you're going to do for them. That's so key here. And we spend a lot of time on inspiration because without it, nothing else happens. Interestingly enough, as I look at it, ICON, I-C-O-N, inspiration, communication, organization, and numeration, those are sequential. That's chronological. They have to happen in that order too. So beware and be wary, I say, of negative inspiration too. And I think especially in a sales business, we have a problem. That's an SOS problem, I like to call it, an SOS problem. SOS is this. It's the shame of selling. I think far too many people have, and especially in the financial services business, have kind of avoided the whole sales idea altogether. Well, Jim, we don't really sell anything. We just offer people the opportunity to consider potential options that may or may not be appropriate in this situation, allowing them to at some time make a decision that they may want to make based upon their own process or something. And I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I think professional sales is a high quality profession. I think you're there to help people do what they need to do, what they probably want to do, but won't do on their own. So the shame of selling, and for those of you in the life insurance business, I think it's especially prevalent in the life insurance business. Oh my goodness, I can't be called a life insurance salesperson. Yet I can tell you that many of the people that I know who are earning seven-figure incomes in this business, in the financial business, financial services business, will call themselves life insurance agents or life insurance salespeople. They will do that. I know that's not, everybody doesn't agree with that. I understand that. But I can tell you that there are many who do. And it's that clarity, I think, that attracts results. Because remember, clarity attracts results. Kind of in confusion repels them. If you're confused, people don't know what you do, your results will be harder to get. So inspiration changes the nature of every activity and experience required to achieve it, making it easier to accomplish. It changes the nature of everything. When you know that why you're doing this. I want to see the life insurance advisor, the entrepreneur in business, lawyers, I want to see that self-employed business continue on and be more successful than ever. I want to see all the opportunity, all of the talent properly exploited and done properly and achieved done. So we help more people. That's what I want to do. And that's why, here I am doing this. But it changes the nature of every activity experience required to achieve it, making it easier to accomplish. And your passion is only the outer expression of your inner inspiration. People say a lot of things about me, but they never say, well, the guy looks like pretty much a dud. Well, he didn't seem very excited about things. He just didn't. That never happens. You can disagree with me, but you'll never think, well, he doesn't believe any of that stuff. He just made that up. People don't say that. And I think that's what you want in your business. You say, well, I don't know whether she's exactly on track, but I know she believes it. And when they believe that you believe it, man, they're inclined to take that advice. And then when they do, that's what creates buyer urgency. Some time ago, I had a coaching client who said to me, Jim, I don't see a lot of urgency out there. People just don't really want to, nobody wants to take any action. And I said to him, Doug, are you waiting for people to sort of push you to buy something? That doesn't happen. They need to be encouraged and promoted and to get that job done right. And that's a big part of that. And that requires real focus. And I know this, and you've heard this before, but I want to reiterate the value of this. The narrower your focus, the broader your potential, the bigger your potential. The smaller your focus, the bigger your potential. That's fact. That's a fact. And that's something that you want to be sure you're doing in your inspiration. You can't be inspired to do everything. You pick one thing. You pick an easy area. And there's ways of doing that to make sure you demonstrate, so you pick the right segment for your particular business. You want to focus on, here's, I think, the most important decision you ever make, and that is to make sure that you've focused on your, how do I put this? That you've found your natural audience. Your most important decision ever is the audience, the people to whom you sell, the people with whom you work. There is no more important decision that you will ever make in business than that one on its own, not a single one. And that's where, now what is this? Well, this is your natural market, where you have natural influence, where you're a natural authority. I just did this recently with one of my clients. I said, you know, where do you think you have natural authority? Where do people automatically look up to you? Where do they automatically think about that you are the person they want to talk to about their problems, their financial security issues? And it's not always an easy answer, because I think we think about what they should do or how we might fit into that, but not necessarily where we really do fit. So we might want to be in a high-end business market, but we may not have we may have no natural authority in that area. And if we don't, it's going to make it very difficult. But you can, when you find it, and by the way, there are no bad markets, there are no bad audiences, just bad fits between advisor and audience. That's the big deal. Doesn't matter whether you're in a family marketplace like my pal Van Miller is, or in a high-end business market like a Guy Baker is. It doesn't really matter. What matters is what's right for you. You find the right decision, the right audience, and make that decision, you're in business. And that's what drives your persistency. I'm working with the right people in the right way. I'm focused. And by the way, think about this too. When you focus, that's what generates heat. You take the light from the sun, like I was as a little kid, you know, trying to, with my magnifying glass, man, you can get a lot of heat there. But you know what? Very quickly it goes away when you lose your focus. So inspiration is what drives persistency. The C stands for communication, to excel at communication. And I had years ago a good friend of mine who since passed away, but when he was asked one day what it was that he did, and Ray just put it this way. Ray said, well, I'm a master communicator. He said, I am a professional communicator. I didn't understand that when I was like 22 years old, 23 years old, which is probably when that was, but it's absolutely true. And as you'll hear from Tom Hegnet, for those of you who know my pal Tom, and really Ann Van, and from others, and now from me, that this is a words, a questions, and a stories business. Words, questions, and stories. Communication, that's what this is all about. It's what you say, it's how you say it, it's when you say it, it's where you say it. It's all of these things. I'll give you an example I have, and I would send this to you too if you are industrially inclined, at jr@jimruta.com. Van used to use, and I think he still uses versions of this because he's just got so many different strategies today, but 5 questions you had to answer if you wanted to maintain or preserve your financial independence in life, your financial security. You have to answer these 5 questions. And he goes through those questions, and they're terrific, not very complicated, simple questions. If you ask me, I'll send them to you. And off he went. And I'll tell you something, it was bizarre because I had someone from India who was in one of these programs at one time, and he asked me for those questions. And he said, he got them, he said, oh, those were great, thank you. And then I got an email a month later saying, well, you know what, they're not working, I'm using those questions, but nobody's buying. What happened? And that's because, you see, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. It's when you say it, it's where you say it, it's to whom you say it. So it's all about that. There's more detail in this. This is all about prospecting and marketing, isn't it? It's all about how you connect with the people you work with the people, with your audience. It's all about that stuff. We even do something called bionic prospecting, where we get our clients to do videos, not unlike this one right here. In fact, what you're seeing on your screen, and make it 90 seconds of a prospecting approach that you can use, and then put up on YouTube, and then send the link everywhere you go. It could be on your LinkedIn page, on your Facebook page. It can be something you send on emails to prospects. It can be on your business card, and get people to do that. Because then I can put 90 seconds. That's only about 130, 140 words. At maybe a bit more, maybe 150 words to be in a compelling cadence. That's all it takes. Can you write down your communication, what you do, and what the benefits are in just those many words, in just those few words? Communication. Well, you see, what I do know, and a lot of advisors don't get this, and I see this all the time, is that it takes a particular script to do this business right. And so what I know is this, that real icons in this business, they have a planned practice, polished, pleasant, professional presentation to prepare premier prospects to purchase proper product promptly. It took a long time to figure that out, but it's true. They do have a planned, practiced, polished, pleasant, professional presentation. They do have something that they use all the time. It's not just off the top of their heads. It's something they do. Something, well, I want to be I want to work on it on a more simple. I want to be more, real. I want to make it up as I go along. Nobody who is a leader does it that way. They're all working from a script. I had the good fortune the other day, last week, in fact, a week and a half ago now, to be in Stratford, England, Stratford upon Avon, where Shakespeare was back in the day. Shakespeare, those great stories of his are still being recited in the same way. What is that now? 500 years later, nearly? Imagine that. But that's what that is. And you polish it. And that's, I think, polishing is a big part of this. We keep on doing it, so it keeps on getting better. And we get better and better at this. There's nobody out there who thinks that this is the first time I've ever done this presentation either. I can't tell you. I have adapted and tuned it up to suit this particular audience. It's not my first time. And it need not be your first time, because you see, when you're building on your experiences, then your expertise becomes that much more effective. And so the question is, do you have a presentation like that you use? My buddy Bruce Etherington, many of you would know Bruce, top-of-the-table advisor out of Mississauga, Ontario, outside of Toronto, and his more than 40 years of top-of-the-table production. And one day he told me this. He said, Jim, the difference between me and the average advisor is that I practice my presentations. And he says, average advisors never do. And I think that's true. I mean, we kind of only practice with live ammunition, with a real prospect. It's kind of a scary time. The penalties for failure are so great then. So you have to be very careful. But communication rules, here's some things you want to know. If you can't, and these are two things from Einstein of all people. Einstein said, if you can't say it simply, you don't know your topic well enough. If you can't say it simply, you don't know your topic well enough. You think about that. Sometimes we get lost and we can't do it. And by the way, that's why you have to focus. If you're going to be able to know it well enough that you can explain it to me simply, so that a kid in grade 8 could understand what you're saying. Kid in grade 6 could figure it out. You think about this, the Wall Street Journal written to a grade 8 level of English. That's it. And you get stuff that's written to a university level, nobody can read it. And the same thing in your presentations. You want to make sure that if you want to say it simply, so if you can't say it simply, you don't know it well enough, so you need to know it better. And then he also said that simplicity is the highest form of sophistication. Simplicity is the highest form of sophistication, and I believe that completely. Absolutely. That 71% there on that screen is an interesting point too. There's a LIMRA study done not long ago that said that 71% of American consumers were more confused about their financial situation after their advisor visited than they were before. 71%. It looks like we weren't really helping them much. We get tied up in jargon, industry language that we think means something, or we try to impress people, but we don't. We just don't. We need to communicate with them. If anyone can understand, then anyone can buy. And that's your job, is to make it simple. You need style versus substance too. And by the way, think about this. Your style and delivery is a huge part of this. I thought today a lot about whether I'd wear a tie or not a tie. Well, today outside it's about 100 degrees. So I'm thinking, well, forget it. I'm not wearing a tie. But I like the blue jacket. I thought about how the style would look. If I showed up in a tank top, had my hair all messed up, wouldn't look the same. I could say stuff, but not style. What style do you have? Because substance today is table stakes. Substance today is table stakes. We're presuming everybody knows the basic deal. Substance is just the starting point. Now, what's your style? You've got one. And those numbers are important because these studies have been done over the years. And I remember these from the 70s. And 55% of communication occurs through body language. 55%. 37% goes through tone of voice, your tone of voice. So 37, you think about this, 37 and 55, 92% of communication is style. Style. 8% of the words. We want the scripts, and the scripts are important. But you think about how much more important your style is, your ability to deliver, the way you handle things. That's important. It's one of the reasons why I train a lot of my clients to do public speaking. And I was a member many years ago of Toastmasters, which I think is an outstanding organization. But your ability to deliver a speech to a large group will make you that much more powerful, frankly, in a small group situation, in a one-on-one situation. It's a key thing. It's it's just so important. Also, you want to speak with authority as someone who has authority, because you do. You know more by virtue of your life license or your investment license, your series, whatever they are. You know more by virtue of that than accountants and attorneys and lawyers and the rest of them. It's surely more than most clients. So speak with authority. And I like to put it this way. We want to advise people, not just optioneer. Optioneer. It's a word I coined years ago, but I think it's just a great word. I like to say, well, you can do A, B, or C. Pick one. I think Bert Meisel outside of Detroit used to do that. A, B, or C, he said. Pick one. Whatever one you like. And here's what I think. I think you have to have A, B, and C, but I say I want to recommend what you need to do. See, if you can't tell me what I need to do, I don't really need you today, do I? And I think that's the difference between when Bert was doing this in the 80s and 70s and 80s, and what's going on today. Today, we're looking for expertise and professionalism and guidance. We want help. Tell me what I need to do. We've got a whole presentation built around that, in fact, called If Money Were No Object. Because what we say there is, if money were no object, here's the 6 things I say you have to do. Bang, bang, bang. Now, of course, money is always an object, and that's where I help you kind of work your way through these and mediate through your needs and your wants and kind of work through your budget to help you get what you want to do. So advise them. Don't just optioneer. And add a little bit of showmanship to what you're doing. And think about how that can apply. It goes an awful long way in this business. And I don't mean to be garish. I just mean think about how you do things to make that a little bit work better. Think about the motivating stories you have. Think about the stories you work with, the people you know, the solutions you've applied that have worked well for you in the past. Because that's one of the great things, one of the great closing techniques of all, really, is of sharing the risk. See, if other people have done this successfully, and I remind you about that, well, I feel like I'm one of them, and that makes it easier for you to do if you're my client. And I have to have those motivating stories. Using Facebook and YouTube marketing, and again, within the parameters of the corporations and the organizations within which you work. But these are things you can do, can make a huge difference in your business. And it's important, I think, to take advantage of that. Even simple things. Just before we came on the air today, I was working on a direct mail piece, actually, for one of my clients. And it was kind of, we don't put phone numbers on anymore. We say, you can text me at this number. And that's kind of, we've been texting for years, but now almost everybody texts everybody. So why phone me? Just text me. By the way, they know if they choose, if they want to phone you, if I can text you at this number, I can call you there too. They know that. You don't even have to make that point, right? And all of this communication is what makes you attractive in the business. Now, there are approach questions that you can use. I want to give you some samples of the kinds of things that work. Has anyone reviewed your life insurance, your financial security, your investment, your retirement portfolio lately? This is one of the best questions you can ever ask today, because the answer to this question from most people is always no. Nobody reviews anything. In fact, this is one of those things we used to say is one of the basis, I guess, of one of those great jokes about the life insurance business. How do you make a life insurance advisor disappear? Buy something. That's about all it takes, and they never call you again. And so this great line, and this line after this, so has anyone reviewed your portfolio lately? No, they haven't. Well, would you have any objection to reviewing your portfolio with me? I've got a good client who makes nearly $5 million a year. That's pretty much his entire approach. Would you have any objection to reviewing your portfolio with me? That's his approach. Does they work all the time? No, but it's what he likes to do. And he produces the report that and when I say review, he says, here's what I mean. Here's what it looks like. It's an amazing thing. Or you might use the majority to minority line that I just talked about. We like helping people move from the majority of people who don't have their financial security plan in place to the minority of those who know exactly what will happen when the worst happens. And they're protected and they sleep at night, moving from the majority to the minority. Or as I mentioned a few minutes ago, may I show you what I would do if money were no object? Let me show you the 5 things we believe that every client in your situation should do. Now, they are adapted and changed based upon your circumstances, of course. But there are the solutions that to financial security are pretty straightforward. And here's what we believe. And by this is a psychological reciprocity thing. Let me show you what I would do before you tell me what you have. And that means then that I can deliver, I sort of show my cards first. That's a trust building, that's a transparency thing. That's a key issue in this business today because those are key responsibilities you've got. What else is there? Have you ever wondered how long you could live on your savings? I mean, these are great questions because that's, but whether it's a retirement thing, because by the way, that's what's going to happen when you retire, living on your savings. Or isn't that pretty much the deal you leave for your family? If you become, what did Roger Zener say many years ago? You should look him up too, Google him, Zener, Z-E-N-E-R. But Roger Zener used to say, what happens if you become part of the grill work on a Mack truck on the way home today? Because that's pretty much the deal. They're going to live on your savings. You know, if I were giving away up to $1 million worth of life insurance, how much would you take? People don't have a habit of saying to them, they'll say, oh, well, you know, I've been thinking about this. I'd like to take $2 million. I'd like to give $1 million to my neighbor and then $2 million to my brother. I mean, that doesn't happen either. You know, there was a story, I heard this, I think it was in, I want to say it was Davenport, Iowa, not long ago. And it was like, do you know the first names of your grandparents? Now, sorry, your great-grandparents, your great-grandparents. I think that's a great question because you see, I'm pretty sure that John D. Rockefeller's great-grandchildren know his name. If you want that sort of legacy, if you want that sort of piece of immortality, then there's things we can do to help you out. I mean, I can't tell you the names of my great-grandparents for love nor money. I could guess one of them could be John, but there's a lot of them out there too, right? How about how have you funded your will? Another great question. These are like questions. How have you funded your will? Most people don't understand that concept. Well, think about this. If there's money in your estate, your will do some things. If there's no money in your estate, well, you know what? The dreams die with the dreamer. That's how that goes. There's also revelation questions. This is one of my particular, I'm very fond of this. I think these are questions where your questions reveal your presentation. But they kind of give you the reality of your presentation. There's a couple of examples here too. Do you think it's fair that if one parent dies, the whole family has to move? Because that's a pretty good pitch, a pretty good client attraction conversation for mortgage insurance, for life insurance, period, isn't it? It really is. Now, do you own your insurance personally or through somebody else? Does your employer own all your insurance? Maybe it's an association. You bought that through your college. As an alumni of your college, maybe you think that's the best way to have somebody else own your coverage for your family, or do you think it would make more sense to own it yourself? Right? We get to O for organization, and this goes pretty quickly because it's pretty straightforward. See, business model is the foundation of everything you do, and it's what we try to do when we're coaching advisors. And say, look, what is your business model? Business model is simply this: how you make money. How do you make money? Now, of course, my partners will tell you that we've got a business plan, we put together a plan. Of course, that's all true. But it starts with the model. The model is the foundation of how you build your business. You then have an organized sales process that's repeatable. It's all the things you do that are repeatable that you can have like a menu of things that your staff does, that you do every day. You're organized in your business. These are the structures and the systems that you've got in your organization to get things done. And it's critical. You can either do it yourself or you hire people to do this. The best of the best, of course, the icons, they're having people do this stuff for them, but they make sure they're done. One of my clients, a woman who's doing extraordinarily well, She makes sure that all of her numbers are tracked for her. She knows how many phone calls have been made, how many calls have been made, how many successful calls were made, how many sales, and she knows every detail of every single day related to the activity and the results of that day. I mean, and that's because she's organized in this system. Now, ideas are one thing, but implementation is everything. So you have to organize yourself and implement this stuff. I mean, a lot of us, look, if everybody implemented what they knew how to do, there would be no coaches. Nobody would be doing anything. And we know this. My job as a coach really is to help you get, first of all, either push you to do it or get you to do it or remind you how important it is that you do actually do what you know you need to do. You want to measure activity. Be careful about this. See, when you're measuring your activity, see, when you know your numbers, you can work your numbers. You might even start with this. And I love this line. There's a guy years ago told me that, we like to do one thing every day to find a new client, just one thing, with no carry forward and no catch up. I would do 3 things today. Tomorrow, I still got to do one thing. I do nothing today, tomorrow, all this week, next week, nothing. And then I start back in the following week. Well, there's no catch up. I have to add 10 to the, 2 weeks from now. Boom, what I do there, I have to do 1. Anybody can do one thing every day. And that's what you want to find a new client. A simple thing. And this kind of organization is what creates consistency. If you want to be consistent, you've got to be organized. It's got to be a machine. It's got to be there. The plan, the model, the systems that you're working with, you've got to be able to work that all the time. Finally, in numeration. And you numerate to improve. You numerate if you want to improve. Now, when I was a young advisor, I was told, well, I have to keep track of my activity. Number of phone calls I made, number of dials rather, number of reaches, number of appointments, number of appointments I had, closes. I had a whole list of things. So it's a weekly sales activity. Some of you may have had or still do things just like that. But I was told something which was weird. I didn't like it much because I think anybody who's any good at selling doesn't much like to keep track of that stuff. You don't like it naturally. I think not a lot of advisors, in my experience, love that stuff. I was told this, well, Jim, you only have to do it for the next 2 years. After that, when your financing is over, I was financed at the princely sum of $1,050 a month, as I recall. And if you want that money, you got to do this. And I thought that was the only reason I was doing it. I was an idiot. I didn't understand this. I didn't get it. You see, I grew out of my keeping track of my activity. I think we had a party the day I stopped doing that. But that's not how this works. That's not the way you're supposed to. If you grew out of this, you likely stopped growing. And it was in that lull that I stopped growing that I got sort of wrangled into going into management. It was a slow time. I was silly, and they got me. Not the best, not the highest paid job in the business either. The best job in business is the one that you've got as an advisor in this business. So you set, you measure, and you monitor your targets. You make a big part of that. Whatever you measure will improve. If you can count it, you can control it. These are rules that are true. Here's what else. If you know your numbers, you can work your numbers. If you know what it takes to get a sale and you need 10 sales, I know exactly what I have to do. This is, we run the Canada Sales Congress, CanadaSalesCongress.ca. Check it out online. I founded that about 7 years ago now. And I can tell you that the top people, we get the best people in the world on that stage. It's like a mini MDRT main platform. And they continually say exactly that. We know exactly what it takes to make a sale at any level. $1,000 a month of premium or, $1 million a year of premium. They know it all. They keep records to break records. You know your numbers, to work your numbers. And here's something else. It's not just to have the numbers, but it's to work with an accountability partner. And the value of an accountability partner is extraordinary. We know from research that if you just record your activity, your numbers, you keep track of that, you track it personally, you do that you can increase your results by as much as 300%. And beyond that, if you can be accountable to somebody else, report them to another person, a partner, a buddy, a manager, a coach, whatever you're doing. If you can do that, here's what happens. You can jack that 300% up by another 70%. That puts you in the 500% range of to what it means to be an icon. Now think about this. If you did 5 times as much business as you're doing today, do you think you'd start to be reaching that icon status? You know, if you're at MDRT level, I just got a brand new client that I met in Los Angeles at MDRT not long ago, and and she said, "Oh, I want to be top of the table." I'm sorry, she wanted to be core to the table. She'd been at MDRT for a number of years. I want to get to core to the table. Well, that's 3 times. But we know just by keeping track of her activity, that could get her. Just that could get her to core to the table. A little bit of inspiration, a little bit of communication, a little bit of organization, a little bit more, I guess, a little bit of numeration. It all works out. And so numeration is what drives your improvement. So as we bring this thing in for a landing, be very careful about guarding your character. And I started off with the attitude, but character is such a big deal here at the end. It's the delivery system for icon. My friend Norm Trainer at Covenant Group told me this. I think it's so true. He says there's 4 things that he said that top clients are looking for from their advisor. But it's more than that. These are 4 things that really deliver your icon system, that make you an icon. Number 1 is integrity. You do what you say you're going to do. When you say it, it's true. It happens. That's truth, honesty, transparency, integrity. And then humility. Humility is great, not just because people like that are fun to be with, and it's because it's hard to deal with people sometimes that only can tell you how good they are. But people who are not humble can't learn much. But if you're humble, you can always be learning. Top clients want advisors who can always be learning about them and what they need to do. They need dedication. Are you all in on this? Are you committed to this? Does it look like you're in business? Or you kind of got 1 foot in and then 1 foot out? I'm never really sure. Are we in or are we out? They want dedication. And finally, they do want passion. They want people to believe. They want to believe that you believe. My friend, who since passed away, was a top-of-the-table producer, Ted Wernham. He said, we're looking for the believers. We want to forget the doubters. The people who believe what you do, the people who say yes, these are your clients. The others are not. And it's just a question, by the way, they could be my clients, because it might just be something about your style they don't like, because we just don't know. But the only way to find out is to keep asking. That's such a key role, such a key responsibility in this business. So let me just leave you with a couple things at the end here. Number 1, be bold, because fortune favors the bold. But bold means something to me, and here's what it is. It's an acronym. I love acronyms, but here's another one. Build out large dreams. What are your large dreams? Because you want to take those 4 key competencies. You want to say, well, what's my inspiration? What's my communication? What's my organization? How will I numerate my business? And you want to make those into big dreams. You build them out, and that's what boldness gives you. And it also works, this famous great von Goethe quotation, which I think is outstanding. Whatever you can do, a dream you can do, begin it, because boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. When you step forward in faith with great boldness, world kind of lines up to help you get things done. And there's really no magic in this business. Those 4 key competencies, to implement them into your business, there's no magic in that. It's sitting down and doing that. If you haven't watched me on Facebook Live, you should. Check me out friend me at Jim Ruta TV. There's some great stuff. Today's meeting, today's call particularly, or I guess video, you'd really like. It's not about, it's just do it. It explains, I guess, the Nike slogan, just do it. So that's it. We're talking about contact me if you want information about executive coaching. We have a business builder program that way. We've got a business builder study group program that we work with. And we've also got something new coming for the fall called Coach on the Go, an easy way to get your coaching online and with a webinar assist on a regular basis that can really help you and kind of get you started. If you're at the beginning of your journey to greatness, your journey to icon, Coach on the Go could be that thing. So check us out, covenantgroup.com, a good way to get started at this business. And so, by the way, if you're interested in coaching, we of course do that. We have a couple of handouts we'll give you. Are you coachable? And the pre-coaching questionnaire, those things, free advice on Facebook, as I mentioned. And of course, visit covenantgroup.com for more information. You can text me. You can email me as well, too. And that is pretty much the way it goes. I just went right over the edge, so I apologize. Andre, see if there's any questions out there.
Okay, I will check out. There was only one question till now if they will be able to get a recording.
Well, we have a recording. We just got to check with Insurance WebEx to make sure that's out there for available for you. I will have it. Well, Andre and I do have the recording, so I hope it's there. I also think it's available to be seen later on as well. But I'm sorry, I'll have to check with that. You can check with me. Send me an email, jim@covenantgroup.com. I'll make sure to let you know. I'm pretty sure I heard crickets there.
Hello?
Any other questions? No?
No, not so far.
Well, we'll give it another a few seconds and go from there. I want to say that the whole idea of implementing your of core competencies, and I think this is absolutely true. Most people are not miles away from being their best. Most advisors are not just so far away. I don't, when I read and I listen and talk to top advisors, I don't get the sense that, man, these are in a different category altogether. But what I do get is this sense of they've got an order to it. There's a system in place. There is a protocol in place. And that's why we first came up with the idea of ICON protocol. And in Covenant Group, we have a different approach to that. But that's kind of my old system. But it's why we had a protocol. So if you can align or organize all the stuff in the right order, then you can get a very strong, you can get way better results from the stuff you're doing today. So that's kind of why this is there. And like I said, you've got, I think, the PowerPoint. Hopefully you've been able to take some notes. And if you have some questions, of course, please let me know. You've got my email. Be happy to do that for you too. Anything else out there, Andre?
No.
No? Well, listen, with that then, if there's no other questions, I want to thank you very much for taking the time and choosing this. I think today we had 35 or 40 people sign up today. I'm delighted for that. And a lot of people will see the recording later on. And that may be not the recording, but I guess it is recorded that way. In any event, and for those of you who are looking for something else, let me know. We'll certainly be able to help you out. In the meantime, I look forward to my next opportunity, which will be a little while, but I think I'll be back at Insurance WebEx. Look forward to that opportunity. If you have any questions, jim@covenantgroup.com. Always happy to take them. Wish you all the very best. Thank you for listening. God bless. See you again next time.